Did you know that 2024 was the deadliest year in aviation since 2018? Over 318 lives were lost in heartbreaking accidents, many of which unfolded under circumstances no one could have anticipated. But what caused these crashes? And could they have been avoided? Today, we're taking a closer look at the biggest aviation tragedies of 2024, unpacking the stories, causes, and lessons behind each one. The year had barely begun when tragedy struck. On January 2nd, Japan Airlines Flight 516, an Airbus A350-900 carrying 403 passengers and crew, was involved in a devastating collision at Haneda Airport in Tokyo. Flight 516 was on a routine domestic trip from New Chitose Airport near Sapporo to Haneda. Meanwhile, a de Havilland Canada -8 Q300 operated by the Japan Coast Guard was on the runway, delivering relief supplies following the Noto earthquake. During Flight 516's landing approach, the A350 collided with the Coast Guard plane, triggering fires that consumed both aircraft. Miraculously, everyone aboard the Airbus A350 survived, but the -8 wasn't as fortunate. Out of the 6 crew members on board, only the captain survived. This incident was Japan Airlines' first hull loss incident since the infamous Flight 123 disaster in 1985, and the first ever hull loss involving an Airbus A350 since its introduction in 2015. Early investigations revealed that Flight 516 was cleared to land, but the Coast Guard aircraft did not have runway clearance. This tragic lapse in communication and coordination raised serious questions about air traffic control and operational safety protocols. March ended with another aviation scare that could have turned tragic. On March 31st, a Boeing 727-200, operated by Safe Air Company, carrying 7 occupants, was involved in a bizarre incident at Malakal Airport, South Sudan. The flight began as a routine cargo mission from Juba International Airport, but during its descent, the crew encountered technical issues. Unable to stabilize the aircraft, they attempted an emergency landing at Malakal. Tragically, the plane undershot the runway, bursting several tires in the process. The pilot lost control and the aircraft veered off course, ultimately colliding with an abandoned McDonnell Douglas MD-82 that had crashed at the airport 2 months earlier. Despite the dramatic impact, all 7 on board survived, with only 1 reported injury. However, both aircraft were severely damaged, and the wreckage of the Boeing 727 ended up splitting into 2 sections. The investigation revealed that while the Boeing 727 faced technical malfunctions, the presence of the disabled MD-82 in the airport's vicinity raised serious questions about the site's operational safety standards. Why was a damaged aircraft still on site 2 months after its own crash? Mid-year brought a devastating blow to Nepal's aviation sector. On July 24th, a Bombardier CRJ-200LR, operated by Saurya Airlines, carrying 19 individuals, crashed shortly after takeoff from Kathmandu's Tribhuvan International Airport. Tragically, 18 of the 19 occupants lost their lives, leaving the captain as the sole survivor. The aircraft was on a repositioning flight to Pokhara International Airport for scheduled maintenance, with the majority of passengers being airline technical staff. Moments after takeoff, the plane veered right instead of the intended left turn, lost altitude, and impacted the ground, leading to a terrible fire. Eyewitness footage captured the aircraft's steep descent before it was engulfed in flames. Preliminary investigations pointed to non-compliance with aircraft loading procedures, including improper weight distribution and unsecured cargo. Also, discrepancies between calculated and actual takeoff speeds were identified. All right. August brought heartbreak to Brazil's skies in one of the country's worst air disasters in recent years. On August 9th, Voepass Flight 2283, an ATR 72-500 with 62 people on board, crashed near Venedo, São Paulo state. Tragically, no one survived, making it Brazil's deadliest aviation accident since 2007. The aircraft stalled at 17,000 feet, entered a flat spin, and plummeted rapidly, leaving no chance for recovery. Preliminary findings suggested icing issues played a critical role. Investigators reveal that the pilot struggled with de-icing attempts, leading to the stall. Both black boxes were recovered and analyzed, shedding light on the challenges faced during those final moments. The investigation is still underway, and we're continuing to learn more about what went wrong and how to avoid this in the future. Brazil witnessed another fiery mid-air scare in November that ended in a close call for the crew. On November 9th, Totolinas Airlines Flight 5682, a Boeing 737 4Q8 cargo plane, suffered an in-flight fire during its journey from Urico de Aguiar Salas Airport to Sao Paulo. The aircraft, carrying essential cargo, landed in Sao Paulo amidst flames, leaving the 2 crew members unharmed, but the plane completely destroyed. The flight began uneventfully, taking off around 11:34 p.m. Trouble emerged as the aircraft neared Sao Paulo. The cargo hold fire alarm activated, forcing the crew to declare an emergency. Despite the alarm, they pushed ahead to land at the planned destination, touching down at 12:42 a.m. on runway 28L. By this point, the flames were visible to air traffic control. Quick thinking by the crew saw them evacuate through cockpit windows to avoid worsening the fire. Firefighters worked tirelessly for hours to extinguish the blaze, and while 20% of the cargo was lost, responders salvaged the remaining goods. Next, a routine winter flight turned tragic in December for Swiss International Airlines. On December 23rd, Flight 1885, an Airbus A220-300 en route from Bucharest to Zurich, faced an engine failure at 40,000 feet. Smoke filled the cabin, forcing an emergency landing at Graz Airport, Austria. While most of the 79 passengers and crew escaped unharmed, 1 crew member later succumbed to injuries, marking the airline's first fatal accident. As the plane descended, smoke alarms created panic among passengers. The crew swiftly guided the aircraft to safety, landing at Graz Airport at 4:33 p.m. The evacuation was immediate, of course, with emergency slides deployed. 12 passengers and 5 crew members received medical attention for smoke inhalation and minor injuries. Tragically, one of the crew, hospitalized in Graz, passed away a week later. Initial investigations flagged a fractured main shaft in the left engine, revealing a fault pattern previously unknown to regulators. Complicating matters, issues with the crew's protective breathing equipment raised questions about its effectiveness, despite an ongoing replacement program. Moving on, Christmas Day 2024 brought not joy, but unimaginable heartbreak to the aviation world. Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243, an Embraer 190AR, was en route from Baku, Azerbaijan, to Grozny, Russia, when it met with catastrophe. As the aircraft approached Grozny, amidst foggy conditions and GPS jamming, a horrified explosion rocked the cabin. Shrapnel pierced the fuselage, sending the flight into chaos. Initially, the pilots radioed the control tower, attributing the disturbance to a bird strike and initiating emergency procedures. But the evidence told a darker tale. Photos of the crash site revealed telltale perforations in the tail section, eerily resembling damage from a missile. Tragically, the flight crashed near Aktau, Kazakhstan, killing 38 of the 67 people on board, including both pilots. Days after the crash, reports surfaced that the plane may have been hit by a Russian Panzer S-1 missile, amidst efforts to repel Ukrainian drones near Grozny Airport. President Vladimir Putin offered an apology, calling the event a tragic incident, but avoided admitting responsibility. Azerbaijan's President Aliyev demanded accountability, compensation for the victims, and clarity amid allegations of a cover-up. The final days of December 2024 brought the deadliest aviation disaster of the year. On December 29th, Jeju Air Flight 2216, a Boeing 737-800 traveling from Bangkok to Muan, South Korea, ended in sheer devastation. Trouble began during its final approach to Muan International Airport. A bird strike caused the pilots to declare a mayday and execute a go-around. But as the aircraft circled back for a second attempt, disaster struck. The landing gear failed to deploy, forcing a belly landing that overshot the runway. The aircraft crashed into the approach lighting system, slammed into a berm, and struck a concrete structure encasing an antenna array. All 175 passengers and 4 of the 6 crew members perished, marking the deadliest aviation disaster involving a South Korean airline since 1997. The 2 surviving crew members, seated at the rear of the plane, were miraculously rescued from the detached tail section, albeit with injuries. This catastrophic crash not only became the deadliest aviation accident on South Korean soil, but also the deadliest involving a Boeing 737 next-generation aircraft. The scale of the tragedy rivaled some of the most devastating moments in aviation history, echoing the heartbreak of Lion Air Flight 610 in 2018. And that's a wrap. What do you think needs to change to prevent future aviation disasters? Should airlines focus more on updating older fleets or improving pilot training? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Before you go, don't forget to check out the recent video, The Craziest Aviation Records Ever Set. Keep flying high with us. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and be ready for more stories that defy the skies.